Welcome, confidential listeners, to another entry from our private archives. This is a space for the unspoken, for the deep, dramatic secrets that carry a heavy emotional weight. Tonight's story was sent to me by a man named Liam, a hard-working soul from the docks of Belfast who learned that silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's the sound of a heart being hollowed out from the inside. It is a chronicle of cold beds, rejected lace, and a betrayal born in the shadows of the North Channel, titled "What I Found After 4 Months of Silence Destroyed Me." So, close the door, turn down the lights, and listen closely, because the audience for this truth is only you. We hadn't been right for a long time. I could feel our marriage in our small terraced house near the shipyards becoming lukewarm, tasteless, that grey routine boredom that sinks into your bones like the Belfast rain. Siobhan and I, we got along well enough on the surface. No shouting matches, no broken plates. But there was a void, a hollow space that filled the house from morning till night. I would look at her across the kitchen table, the steam from our tea rising between us like a wall of mist, and I realized we were just two ghosts haunting the same hallways. It felt like something was missing, a spark that had been drowned by the monotony of our lives. I spent my days at the docks, the cold wind biting at my face, thinking of ways to bring her back to me. But every time I walked through the front door, the air inside felt even colder than the Irish Sea. Is this it? Is this the rest of our lives? Just passing the salt and avoiding each other's eyes? This way of existing, this polite distance, it couldn't continue. I decided I had to be the one to bridge the gap. I thought that if I could just remind her of the fire we once had, the shadows of Belfast would finally lift from our home. But I didn't realize that while I was trying to build a bridge, Siobhan was already burning the map. It was at the Shipyard office that I saw a colleague showing around catalogs of women's products. I stared at the glossy pages of lace and silk, and for the first time in months I felt a flicker of hope. I decided to order a few things. A set of lace lingerie, something sensual that I'd never seen her wear, and a silk nightgown that promised to be much warmer than the cold silence of our room. I spent a week's wages on those packages, hiding them in my locker at the docks like they were contraband. I even found something different, a set of dice with positions instead of numbers. It was a bit of fun, a way to break the ice and maybe make her laugh again. I wanted us to play, to remember that we were more than just roommates sharing a mortgage in a gray city. Siobhan, I have something for you. Well, for both of us, really. Open it. I handed her the packages that night as she sat on the edge of the bed, her face illuminated only by the dim bedside lamp. My heart was pounding against my ribs, a rhythmic drumbeat of desperation. I watched her fingers move over the wrapping paper, praying that when she saw the lace, she would see me too, the man who was still fighting for her. She opened the first package, pulling out the lace lingerie with 2 fingers as if it were something stained. "For us, Liam, is this what you think we need? It's a bit pathetic, don't you think?" She didn't even try it on. She just shoved the silk back into the box with a clinical coldness that felt like a slap. The room, already chilled by the Belfast wind, suddenly felt like the inside of a meat locker. I felt the enthusiasm die right there in my chest, a cold, heavy weight settling where my heart used to be. I didn't even bother showing her the dice with the positions. I just stood there like a fool, holding on to a hope that had just been executed. I had spent a week's sweat and toil for that moment, and she had dismantled it in 10 seconds with a single look of disgust. Not even a thank you, not even a smile, just that look like I'm a stranger she's forced to live with. When we finally got into bed, the silence was louder than the shipyard whistles at dawn. Even though I was still burning with a need to be close to her, to feel some kind of human warmth, I knew it was useless. I lay there on my side, staring at the wallpaper peeling in the corner, feeling the vast, unbridgeable distance between our bodies. "Can you turn off the light? I have an early meeting at the office and I don't need the distractions." I reached over and clicked the lamp off, plunging us into a darkness that felt like it would never end. I couldn't take the silence anymore, so I headed down to a pub in Cathedral Quarter to meet Siobhan's sister, Erin. The air in the pub was thick with the smell of stale stout and tobacco, a perfect place for uncomfortable truths. I thought if anyone knew what was rotting at the core of my marriage, it would be her. I bought her a drink and leaned in, my voice barely a whisper over the local folk music. "Erin, please, tell me the truth. Is there someone else? Is she sick? She treats me like a ghost in my own house." I watched her eyes shift, avoiding mine, as she took a long sip of her Guinness. I could see the hesitation in the way she gripped the glass, a battle between family loyalty and the pity she felt for the man sitting across from her. "Erin, love, some things are better left unsaid. Marina, Siobhan, she's just going through a phase. Don't go digging where you don't want to find anything." She didn't give me an answer, but the way she hurried out of the pub told me everything I needed to know. She knew. The whole family probably knew, and I was the only one left standing in the dark, holding an umbrella in a storm that had already washed my life away. But Erin didn't just keep quiet. She went straight to Siobhan. By the time I got home, the trap was already set, and my attempt to find the truth had only accelerated the end. The moment I stepped through the door, I could feel the electricity in the air, sharper than a Belfast gale. Siobhan was standing in the middle of the kitchen, her arms crossed, her eyes flashing with a cold fire I hadn't seen in years. "You went behind my back to Erin? You're interrogating my family now, Liam? Is that what we've come to?" She didn't wait for an answer. She just began to tear into me, using my desperation as a weapon against my character. I had reached my limit. I didn't back down this time. "I went to her because you won't speak to me. I'm living with a statue, Siobhan. When was the last time you actually looked at me, not as a roommate, but as your husband?" The clock on the wall ticked like a countdown between us, each second marking another crack in the foundation of the life we had built near the shipyards. "Marriage isn't just about what happens in the bedroom, Liam. You're obsessed. If you're so unhappy, if you think I'm such a statue, then why are you still here? Are you trying to find a reason to leave me? Because you've just found one." She twisted the truth so fast it made my head spin, turning my search for intimacy into a crime of harassment. I realized then that she wasn't defending our marriage, she was protecting a secret. The way she stood there, defiant in her floral work dress, she looked like a woman who had already moved out in her mind, leaving only a shell behind to deal with the nuisance of my presence. The confrontation didn't bring us closer. It only drew the battle lines clearer than ever before. The house fell into a terrifying silence after the shouting stopped, but it was the silence of a tomb, not a truce. Siobhan didn't go to bed. She started moving through the house with a purpose that chilled my blood. "I'm done, Liam. I've reached my limit with your jealousy and your needs. I want a divorce, and I want you to leave this house tonight." I stood there in the hallway, the shadows of the coat rack looking like skeletal fingers against the wall, unable to believe that 10 years were being erased in 10 seconds. I tried to reach for her, to stop the madness, but she recoiled as if I were a leper. "Tonight, Siobhan, it's nearly midnight and it's pouring outside. Where am I supposed to go? We can talk about this in the morning, please." She didn't even look at me. She just pointed at the door with a trembling hand that wasn't shaking for fear, but from a desperate urge to have me gone. It was as if my very presence had become a physical weight she could no longer bear to have under her roof. "Go to a hotel. Go to the docks. I don't care. If you don't leave, I'll call the police and tell them I don't feel safe. Is that what you want?" I realized then that there was no man left in her eyes, only a problem to be solved. I grabbed my heavy coat and my keys, stepping out into the brutal Belfast rain without a single bag, the click of the deadbolt behind me sounding like a gunshot in the empty street. I spent that night in my old truck, parked near the dark cranes of the shipyard, watching the rain wash over the windshield. I felt like a castaway in my own city, shivering as the damp Irish cold seeped into my bones, wondering how a man could lose everything he owned between a sunset and a sunrise. A few days passed like a fever dream, and when I finally gathered the courage to return to our house, I found the front door unlocked. The air inside was stale and the silence was absolute. Siobhan was gone. Not just gone for the day, but erased. Her perfumes were missing from the dresser, and the space where her photos sat on the mantel was nothing but a layer of pale dust. It was as if she had never existed in those rooms, as if 10 years of marriage had been a hallucination I had suffered alone. I drove straight to her mother's house in the suburbs of West Belfast, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard they turned white. I expected to find her car in the driveway, or at least a sign of her presence, but the house looked just as gray and indifferent as the rest of the street. "Is she here? Please, I just need to know she's safe. She hasn't answered my calls in days." Her mother just stood behind the screen door, her face a mask of practiced sorrow that didn't quite reach her eyes. "She isn't here, Liam, and even if she were, she's made it very clear she doesn't want to be found by you. Leave it alone. You've done enough damage with your questions." I saw a flicker of movement in the upstairs window, a curtain twitching for a split second, and I knew right then that the whole family was part of the wall she had built around herself. They weren't worried about her. They were guarding her. I realized she hadn't just left me. She had executed a tactical retreat supported by a network of silence I couldn't hope to break. She had walked away from our home and left me with the mortgage, the memories, and 1,000 questions that the Belfast fog seemed to swallow up every time I tried to scream them out loud. I was a man haunting his own life, searching for a woman who had already become a stranger's prize.
4 months. That's how long it took for me to stop jumping every time the phone rang or a car that looked like hers turned the corner. I had tried to move on, burying myself in the brutal physical labour of the shipyards until me muscles screamed louder than me thoughts. Belfast had become a labyrinth of memories, every pub and every street corner a reminder of the woman who had discarded me like a piece of rusted scrap metal. It was a Tuesday afternoon, a rare day when the sun fought its way through the clouds over the Lagan River. I was walking near a new block of luxury apartments in the city centre, places far beyond what a dock worker could ever afford. I saw a woman step out of the glass lobby, and for a second the world stopped spinning. The way she tilted her head, the way she clutched her coat. It was a silhouette I knew better than my own face. It was Siobhan. I didn't call out. I stood frozen behind a stone pillar, my heart hammering against me ribs like a trapped bird. She stood there for a few seconds, looking at her watch, waiting with a patience she never had for me. Then a man stepped out behind her. He was younger, dressed in a sharp navy suit that screamed money and corporate boardrooms. No, it can't be. Not here, not like this. He didn't just walk past her. He reached out and took her hand, his fingers interlocking with hers with a familiarity that made me stomach turn. But as they turned toward the street, the sun hit her directly, and I saw what she had been hiding under that expensive wool coat. Her belly was rounded, heavy with a life that was at least 6 or 7 months along. The math was a jagged blade in me gut. 4 months since she left, but she was nearly ready to give birth. She hadn't been tired or focused on her career. She had been growing another man's future while she was still sleeping in my bed.
I didn't think. I didn't plan. My feet moved before my mind could find the brakes, carrying me across the street until I was standing directly in their path. The man in the suit instinctively stepped in front of her, but Siobhan, she just froze, her face turning as white as the cliffs of Antrim. Is this the career you were so worried about? Is this why you couldn't stand my touch, Siobhan? The busy city sounds of Belfast seemed to fade into a dull hum, leaving only the sound of my ragged breathing and the ticking of a truth that could no longer be denied. She didn't cry, she didn't beg. She looked at me with a coldness that was sharper than any winter frost. You shouldn't be here, Liam. This has nothing to do with you anymore. We are separated. Just go back to the docks and leave us alone. She said us with a possessiveness that felt like a hot iron against my skin, effectively erasing 10 years of our lives as if they were nothing more than a bad dream she had finally woken up from. Look, mate, you're making a scene. Siobhan is in a delicate state. Why don't you just walk away before this gets ugly? I looked at him, this stranger who was wearing the life that was supposed to be mine, and then I looked back at Siobhan's belly. 4 months. You've been gone 4 months, but you're nearly at full term. You were carrying his child while you were still lying to me about the pill, while you were telling me we weren't ready for a family. The realization was a poison that filled my entire body. Every night I spent wondering what I did wrong. Every hour I spent feeling guilty for wanting a family. It was all a play she was acting in while waiting for the right moment to switch stages. She didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. She just gripped his hand tighter, a silent confirmation that I was already a ghost to her. Standing there on that clean sidewalk, I realized that I wasn't fighting for my wife anymore. I was just witnessing the person she truly was for the very first time. The man, Colum, as she finally called him, didn't just take her away. He dismissed me with a look of pity that felt like a serrated blade. As they walked toward a luxury car parked at the curb, I I realized that this wasn't a sudden affair born from our boring marriage. This was a relocation. I watched them drive away, and then I did the only thing a man with nothing left to lose could do. I followed the scent of the truth back to that apartment building. I spoke to the doorman, a silver-haired man who looked like he'd seen every sin Belfast had to offer. A few bills of my shipyard wages bought me the information that shattered the last of my soul. The lady in 4B? Aye, she's been living here part-time for nearly a year. Her husband, the tall lad in the suit, he signed the lease back in last January. A year. She had a second home, a second life, and a second bed for 8 months while she was still eating breakfast with me in our kitchen near the docks. Every late night at the office, every weekend with her mother, every time she told me she was too tired for me, it was all spent here, in this glass tower overlooking the city. She had been playing a double game with the precision of a master architect, building her new world with the bricks she was stealing from our old one. She didn't just leave me 4 months ago. She had been slowly erasing me for a year, waiting for her belly to grow too large to hide before she finally threw me out like trash. I was paying the mortgage on a tomb while she was decorating a nursery with him. I stood in the lobby, surrounded by marble and expensive scents, feeling the grease and coal dust of the shipyards on my skin. I realized then that the woman I loved never existed. She was a mask worn by a stranger who used my loyalty as a safety net until her new life was ready to catch her.
I went back to our house one last time, not to wait for her, but to say goodbye to the man I used to be. The air still smelt faintly of her perfume, a lingering ghost that mocked me from every corner. I walked into the bedroom and saw the box of lace lingerie still sitting on the dresser, unopened and rejected, a monument to a love that was only ever one-sided. I realized then that I wasn't mourning a marriage. I was mourning a lie that I had nurtured with my own sweat and blood. I didn't call a lawyer that night. I didn't plan a revenge. I simply took a heavy black bin bag and began to clear the house of every memory that tied me to the woman in the glass tower. Her books, the leftover wedding favors, the photos of us at the Giant's Causeway, everything went into the dark plastic. You didn't just take the future, Siobhan. You poisoned the past, and I'm not carrying that weight anymore. I drove down to the edge of the docks, where the black water of the channel laps against the rusted pilings. One by one, I let the pieces of our life sink into the silt. There was no dramatic fire, no grand speech, only the soft splash of memories disappearing into the cold, indifferent depths of the Irish Sea. I felt a strange lightness as the bag emptied, a hollow freedom that felt more like a scar than a victory. In Belfast, we know that some things are too broken to be fixed. They can only be surrendered to the tide. I looked up at the Harland and Wolff cranes, standing like silent sentinels over the city, and I knew I couldn't stay here. Every street was a witness to my humiliation, and every face in my neighborhood carried a piece of the secret she had kept from me. I was done being the fool of the Titanic Quarter. Keep the house, Siobhan. Keep the lies. I'm taking the only thing you couldn't steal, my shadow.
And so the diary of Liam closes, lost somewhere between the docks and the deep fog of the Irish Sea. It's a story that reminds us that the people we wake up next to every morning can sometimes be the greatest strangers of all. Liam didn't just lose a wife, he lost the ground beneath his feet, discovering that while he was building a home, Siobhan was merely using it as a waiting room for a life that already belonged to someone else. In the end, we have to wonder, was the coldness Liam felt for months a warning he ignored? Or was Siobhan so masterful in her deception that no man could have seen the truth? Some say that in a city like Belfast, the stones themselves hold on to secrets, but even the heaviest stone eventually cracks under the weight of a lie. Confidential listeners, I have to ask you, if you were in Liam's shoes, would you have walked away in silence as he did, or would you have demanded a different kind of justice for a year spent living in a shadow? And to Siobhan, is a new life ever truly new when it's built on the wreckage of a heart you swore to protect? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. This is a space for the unspoken, and your voice is the only one that matters now. If this entry from our archives touched a nerve, hit the like button and subscribe to stay tuned for the next secret. Keep your eyes open and your secrets closer. Good night, and try to sleep well if the truth allows it.